welcome back, NoDQ Galaxy, to a brand new edition of the NoDQ Review, number 173, and I am Virtue, being joined by this week's panel of the review. Of course, Aaron Rift is here, Big G is back, happy to be here, and the Dr. Jargo is here. Gentlemen, what's up? What is going on? Jargo, what's the word, man?
Man, bird is the word. Of course, we all know this, man. It's great to be back. Thanks for having me, and let's get on with the show. It looks like we got some fun stuff to talk about tonight.
Yes, already people super chatting before we even went on, and I saw the name Shane McMahon. Big G, what's up?
Doing pretty good. Got Celeb Fest 3 this Saturday or Sunday, and then an MCW show following, so I'm hyped up for that. Other than that, like I always say, let's get this ball rolling, baby.
All right, shout out to Colin, the Cleaver, Andrew, who is moderating in the chat, and San Goshoku was going to be on, and he's had some technical difficulties, so shout out to him. We'll hopefully have him on next week. I think it's his birthday and Noah's birthday next week, so we'll see if he can get on. All right, Aaron Rift, what's up? And I see a super chat already came in.
Yeah, maybe we should save that for a little bit. I do have it bookmarked, so we could save it for the end. Don't worry, Mr. Anderson. We will get to that super chat. We're going to save it for the Shane McMahon topic, so we're not going all over the place. I'm hopeful that this will be the best No DQ review in the world because we have a very interesting main event topic this week. We're coming off the Royal Rumble, and I'm just excited to see what everybody thinks about the pay-per-view and what's to come. We just had WWE's financial report come in today. We'll see if we talk about that or not. We got AEW Dynamite, CM Punk and MJF. MJF beating CM Punk. CM Punk taking his first loss in AEW. Plenty of interesting stuff to talk about tonight. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. He says, hey, Jargo, is Danhausen part of Chaoshausen now?
You know, I knew that this question was going to come up, and I knew it was going to be Psycho Jack Black. And yes, I can confirm it is, in fact, now Chaoshausen. Danhausen, as a member of the Best Friends, now belongs to Chaos, and it makes me sad.
All right.
2022.
Let's get this show going.
So Shinsuke Nakamura is crying in a corner over what Chaos has become. It's an insult to the name.
You don't think they're crying in a corner over what Shinsuke Nakamura has become?
No, because I think Shinsuke Nakamura is what Shinsuke Nakamura always has been. The problem with Shinsuke Nakamura is Shinsuke Nakamura needs to be motivated, and Vince McMahon is not in the motivation business.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. He's in the making money business,
yes.
And but like we'll see if anybody brings that up. But the Royal Rumble fallout, like where do I even begin? Big G, I'm coming to you first. Right. Roman Reigns lost the match by disqualification to Seth Rollins, thus retained the Universal Championship. Right. Pretty solid match with them, whatever you want to say on the ending. Ronda Rousey did return and won the Women's Royal Rumble. Bobby Lashley became the WWE Champion because Roman came back out. And let me go back a little bit, Big G. Roman beat up Seth with a chair after the match. And, of course, Seth is a babyface now. How can he not be? Okay, it was continuing that story of the Shield and what Seth did. I get it. Plus, think about this, people. When we talk about the end of the Royal Rumble match, the chaotic men's Royal Rumble match, why wouldn't we have said Seth could have came back out there too, like Brock did for that last spot? So he was beat up. So maybe that's why they did it. But nonetheless, Roman cost Brock the WWE title, so Lashley got it. And, of course, the Heyman swerve did happen. He's back with Roman. And that all led to us knowing exactly what was going to happen at the end of the men's Rumble match because of Lesnar losing, and he came back out and won the Royal Rumble. We're not going to talk really too much about Shane McMahon yet. That's going to be the main event. But Big G, thoughts on the fallout of all these major points from the Royal Rumble? You don't necessarily have to talk about all of them, but you can talk about what affected you the most as a fan And
right. Well,
I mean, I'm telling you, man, it's a lot of people crapped on this show. I was very generous. I liked it because I got the winners that I wanted. I didn't care how it got there. I don't pay attention to all that detail like some fans do.
Right.
Take it away, Big G.
So let me say this. If fans don't like the product, don't watch it. Nobody's pointing a gun to your head and saying you have to watch WWE.
Yeah.
So if you don't like what's happening and you constantly complain about it, don't watch it. With that being said, I thoroughly enjoyed the Rumble. Ronda coming back. I was happy for that. Some people are mad that she won the Royal Rumble after being gone for 3 years and stuff like that. But who cares? I was happy that she's back. I'm happy that she won it because now we can finally see. I'm sure we'll probably get.
Well, that's a dilemma, Big G.
Right.
We're supposed the fans are like, okay, well, we're going to get that Becky Ronda match we always wanted. They probably won't do that.
Right.
It might be because of the Fox has to have Rousey and Charlotte's already over there. And, they might delay that Becky match till the following year.
Right. And then the Rollins and Reigns match, that was pretty decent. I liked Rollins come out to the Shield music, trying to be that master manipulator, which was pretty cool. And the ending I thought was fine. That just shows that Rollins got into Roman's head, and Reigns pretty much, was like, well, I'm gonna do everything and anything to keep my title, and if I have to get disqualified, I'm gonna do that. Lashley winning, that's pretty cool. I think Lashley needed it more than Lesnar because we all knew eventually Lesnar was gonna face Roman Reigns down the line at WrestleMania 38. Well, will it be title for title? Because Lesnar's in the Elimination Chamber. Will Lashley lose it? So, back early at the Elimination Chamber. And the Men's Royal Rumble, I mean, Lesnar winning, no shocker there. I mean, we kind of knew that once he lost the title, he was going to come in and most likely win it. Heyman joining back with Reigns, I thought that was like an I want to say an oh my god moment for me, but I was like, wait, what just happened? I had to turn my head, and I was like, because I figured Reigns was pretty much done with him, and then we had talked about it before, saying that he was gonna probably go back and join Reigns. So I had called Paul Heyman a side piece a couple of weeks ago, but we'll see how that ends up. And other than that, it was a decent show.
All right.
You're in the lead with the predictions.
Oh, it's definitely early if Big G's in the lead.
He got a perfect score for the Rumble.
Look at you, and you should have liked that.
That right there
knew
just tells you how predictable WWE is when it comes to their big shows.
Mm-hmm. But hey, heading into Mania in Dallas 2 nights, we kind of no wonder it was predictable. Aaron, I'm going to go to you next because a couple super chats rolled in. So Jargo, please stand by.
Okay, well, we got a $5 super chat from Mr. Anderson. And Mr. Anderson, we still have your other one on standby, so we'll get to that in just a little bit. He says, love that Reigns took a chair to Seth Rollins several times and thought Sasha got eliminated too early in the Women's Royal Rumble match. Good points there, Mr. Anderson. I agree with you about Sasha. And like I said, I think that it was a good pay-per-view. I thought it was a good pay-per-view. Men's Rumble match was a bit lackluster, and apparently a lot of us are in agreement that the Men's Rumble match was a bit disappointing. There's been talk about the morale being low and a lot of people unhappy with how things turned out with that Rumble match. But once Brock lost the WWE title, it was obvious. It's unfortunate that the match kind of lacked any kind of surprise or anything that was unexpected. It just felt like a long match, standard Royal Rumble, nothing too exciting happening in it. And then poor Kofi had his mishap during the match. That was unfortunate. I enjoyed the Women's Rumble match more than the men's for sure. And it looks like we do have Sun here. So hopefully his audio is working. We'll get him on for his thoughts here in just a minute on the Royal Rumble. Let me get to these additional super chats real quick. Johnny Boy sent in a $5 super chat. Says, I feel like wrestling fans just want surprises now. They crap on AEW if nobody debuts and on WWE if nobody debuts or returns. Well, to respond to that, I think with the Rumble, I think fans just wanted to see a couple of surprises, and it's not that hard. Like, where was Sean Waltman? He was wanting to be there, and they apparently had no interest in him. That would have been a
Bad
nice
Bunny.
Well, Bad Bunny, yeah. I mean, I guess that's something. Bad Bunny, Shane McMahon, and we'll talk about that more later. But you know, one fun thing about the Rumble for me was always seeing the past names come back and try to have one more run, try to go for the title and have that spotlight one final time.
What did you think about Mickey having a lot of time in the Rumble?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I was fine with that. And we got to see some of the past Diva names come out. Bella Twins came out. Brie did the yes chants. And we had some fun moments in the women's match. But yeah, the men's match did not have much. Cesaro was not in it. That disappointed people. No NXT people whatsoever. But if NXT people were in the match, the people would complain saying, hey, the current guys are losing spots. It's like it's
Right.
no win regardless of who's in the match. But yeah, I would have liked to have just seen maybe some more storylines in the match. You know, what happened with the whole Ray and Dominic deal going into the Rumble? There was no follow-up on that. And Randy Orton, the hometown guy, was literally in there for like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. It was ridiculous. Let me see here. There was another super chat. Let me get to that real quick. Dwayne Atkinson sent in a $2 super chat. Says, more past than current wrestlers in the women's Rumble. Yeah, that's what happens when you cut half of your women. They had to resort to bringing back women from the past. Apparently, they tried to bring in the Iconics, the Inspiration, and
Nia Jax.
Well, I mean, the real question, who on the current women's roster got left out?
Nobody.
I mean, that was like legitimately every woman on the women's roster at this point.
I mean, I can understand people being upset that Nia Jax didn't come back, but you know, oh wait,
Right.
never mind.
Yeah.
Nia Jax,
Nobody was sad.
her turning it down. Oh, what a shame that she was not in that match.
She told WWE to F off.
All right, let me
I mean,
see
that was funny, you know.
Mr. Anderson sent in a $5 super chat. Let me get to that. He sent in $5 and says, I agree. Should have had X-Pac in the Rumble instead of Johnny Knoxville taking up the space. Well, at least Johnny Knoxville was in the match for a very short period of time. They did that little angle, and you know he wasn't in there more than like 3 or 4 minutes. But we got Sun here. Sun, say something.
Hey everybody, Son Goshuaku finally here. Hopefully you guys can hear me. My XLR microphone, the cable was messed up, causing me on a delay, but I have triumphed and come here because I'm ready to have some fun with NoDQ.
All right, we got Sun here. So business, as Jim Ross would say, business has picked up.
So Aaron, are you good? Then you covered everything. And you do the Royal Rumble recap anyway, so
Yeah.
are you good? Okay.
We got that super chat from Mr. Anderson about Shane, which we'll get to here in just a little bit.
So Jargo, your turn.
I guess my thing with the Rumble is I don't necessarily have a problem with any of the results. I just have a problem with the presentation of what they put out. Was the mission to make Seth Rollins the biggest babyface in the company? Is that what they were actually going for? Or was that just a byproduct of Roman losing his mind? Were we trying to make Bobby Lashley into an undeserving chicken shit heel? Or was that just kind of a byproduct of the whole Brock Lesnar story that you're trying to tell? Like, I feel like inside of a vacuum, the Rumble was a good show, but I feel like if you look at like the bigger picture and the full storyline of what's going on inside of the climate inside of the company right now, a lot of it didn't make any sense. Which, I mean, I think probably kind of blends over into the Shane McMahon topic that we'll get to a little bit later. So
Now, Jargo, if they would have just did something as much of a wreck as the Men's Royal Rumble was, right? I mean, you had Matt Riddle getting out punched by Shane McMahon. You had Matt Riddle taking a Canadian Destroyer or whatever that was from Bad Bunny. Boy, I mean, Matt Riddle, maybe, I mean, the rumor of him winning that match, I can't buy that. Like, to me, I have a gut feeling Vince McMahon likes Matt Riddle, but if they would have had a different way that Brock got in there to win it, even though we expected it, other than just showing up at number 30, would you have at least given that a pass? Like if somebody came out and Brock kind of pushed him out of the way, which we've seen before, would that have made just a little bit of a difference, even if we expected it no matter what?
I mean, part of the problem is when Brock Lesnar comes out, look at who's in the ring, right? You've got Matt Riddle out there who people like. You've got Randy Orton out there who people like. You've got Shane McMahon who's being presented as a babyface. Like there's all these baby faces in the ring. Brock comes out and throws them out. And now you want me to be happy about that? Like
Big E was out there too.
Right. And Drew McIntyre, like it didn't make any kind of psychological sense. You should have been happy when Brock Lesnar won the Rumble, but instead, like he eliminates Randy Orton, and Randy Orton being from St. Louis, the crowd feels deflated. Like it was just the psychology of how the Rumble was laid out. I didn't like. I'm fine with Brock Lesnar winning. I just didn't like the presentation of it.
Which, according to reports, there were like 20 changes to the Rumble, and I believe that. I know Virtue has his doubts about the dirt sheet reports, but I believe it, man, because you would think that they would have planned that out better.
Yeah, it's just the way that it was presented. It felt like every time Brock eliminated somebody, it was more deflating than, you getting behind Brock Lesnar, which should have been the goal of the way that the Rumble was laid out.
Right.
All right, son, now that you are finally here, we are talking the fallout from the major things that happened at Royal Rumble, such as Reigns retaining, Ronda Rousey winning the Women's Rumble, Bobby Lashley being the benefactor of the Heyman-Reigns swerve, and of course, that letting us all know Brock was probably going to win the Royal Rumble. Thoughts?
Well, I did a review for the Royal Rumble, and I started that review off with a quote from MJ from No Way Home Spider-Man, where it is basically, if you expect disappointment, then you will rarely be left disappointed. That is the mindset that I have to adapt now with the way WWE programming is going to be. So I try not to get myself too hyped up for these shows, and pretty much that's what you get. The men's Royal Rumble. I'll talk a lot more about that in the main event, apparently for the one who's responsible for that. But yeah, that thing lacked a lot of structure. It lacked a certain flow. I thought the women's Royal Rumble was much better. Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar was a match I had been looking forward to since I was in middle school, and it didn't deliver to the heights that I was hoping. I don't listen to Jim Cornette often, but I did want his take on this because he was with both men in OVW, and he had a great idea. He's like, have these guys just go ahead and shoot wrestle for a couple of minutes and then just, tap each other on the shoulder when the hold is becoming too tight. Would have loved to see more of that with their amateur wrestling and MMA background. Roman Reigns itself was awesome, but to get to like the ending, I'm not sure what it is with this company. They don't want to put Roman Reigns over clean when it comes to Brock Lesnar in championship matches, nor Seth Rollins, who actually beat Brock Lesnar clean. So I don't know what's going on with that. But like I said, my main thoughts are in my Royal Rumble review. Overall, it was honestly, I think it's only going to be remembered for Ronda Rousey's return, and then everything else was kind of just there. Some fun moments, but a lot of just basically, how do we get to the finish with Brock Lesnar? That's what I thought.
Son, you know why the matches and certain things just don't seem like they end right? Because they're really, really missing Pat Patterson. He was a master over the years, at least for the main events, to figuring out what made most sense, how the fans would most likely react. And they just don't have, he passed away. And I think he was done doing that for a while anyway. That's when the magic of WWE's finishes were lost, I think. Just my gut.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, Aaron. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I got one more thing. Plus, when that big Disney deal happened, I knew right there, what's the incentive? You know Disney is going to be paying out some big bucks to the WWE, so I already know from there they could do whatever they want. I knew no matter how they booked this whole Royal Rumble show, it doesn't matter because they got a big Disney deal that's probably going to expand way beyond one country. But I will say this, I am looking forward to the day that we have pre-shows run by Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. Can you just imagine? My gosh, Roman Reigns, he's done such a fantastic job running the WWE over the past 15 years. I don't know. I've liked it better when he was the big dog. Would you all just shut up? We need to get to the match. match. It's going to be a fantastic day when Disney is owning WWE. If it ever happens.
A Royal Rumble surprise. There you
know
go.
what, son?
Disney character.
You might not be too far off there. I could see that happening one day where they have the Disney animated characters doing the kickoff show. I could totally see that as a feasible thing in the future.
Oh, jeez.
So, Aaron, before we move on, you got some more super chats because we got a couple more big topics here, man.
Yeah, we do. Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Walter. Says, I would have preferred that someone from now won the Rumble and Lesnar won the Chamber to get to Roman Reigns. What do you guys think? I agree with that 100%. I was thinking that's why I picked Brock to retain, because I was thinking, you know what? They could use the Royal Rumble to set up the WWE title match for WrestleMania, and then they could do the Chamber match to determine who faces Roman Reigns, and then Brock has to go through 5 other guys to get to Roman Reigns. I just thought that made logical sense, and they don't seem to do that anymore with the Chamber. Like, they don't even do it as a number 1 contenders match anymore. They just put the title match in it, which makes no sense to me, because I feel like you can use that match to determine the WrestleMania main event for the other title. You got one title determined,
right,
the Royal Rumble winner, then you can use the Chamber match to determine the other champion. Anybody want to add to that?
I don't think Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has told them who is winning the Elimination Chamber yet. I don't think they even know who the WWE champion is going to be going into WrestleMania at this point. I feel like that's completely up in the air.
Yeah, well, I'd love to see Randy Orton versus Riddle at this point for the title.
And I was going to say that's the reason why I'm trying not to get myself too hyped up. Years ago, I would have been all over this. Like, come on, what are you guys doing? You need to use one of the newer talents, put the Royal Rumble over, like the opposite. Have Bray Wyatt win the championship, and have Bray Wyatt win the Rumble, then Orton win the championship. But now it's like they're doing the opposite. But at this point, it's like nobody has been built up, so might as well go with Brock Lesnar. And that's why that men's Royal Rumble was not the issue. Like, I knew Brock was going to win, but like I said, the rest of that Rumble, the destination they took to get there, man, it was just no suspense at all.
Very, very well said there, son. And we do have a few more, so I'll get to those. Jerry Slaughter sent in a $5 super chat. He's the new normal this week. He has a different name every week, depending on what the big topic in wrestling is. He says, how long do you think Kofi Kingston would have lasted if he had not botched? A little bit. I think him and Big E would have done some stuff, but man, what a chump Big E looked in this match. I picked him to win, and he just got tossed out like a jabroni.
I think the problem with Big E is most of what he was going to do inside of the Rumble match went around whatever Kofi was going to be doing, and when Kofi got eliminated, it just made Big E completely irrelevant to the match.
Very, very true. And now he's on SmackDown. He's not even on Raw anymore. They just threw him over on SmackDown to team up with Kofi. I guess New Day reunited, so I suppose that's a positive, right?
I mean, inevitably, they need babyface challengers for Roman Reigns. So,
yeah,
there you go.
They could definitely do that at some point, maybe post-WrestleMania. And Walter Cruz sent in a $2 super chat, says, Mickey Mouse versus Donald Duck in a cinematic match. LOL. You know what? It's not that far out of the realm of possibility. Like, I could see them doing something like that as a promotional tool, having Mickey and Donald compete in the match to hype up a pay-per-view. Like,
if they get Pixar involved, that might be a very well animated CGI short. I'm gonna tell the truth. It would be very well animated. But I don't know if WWE's gonna spend that type of money.
Well, I'm sure with the money that Disney or whoever's paying them, they can afford it.
Oh, and before we move on, I want to stick up for what we don't know yet regarding Roman Reigns and what he did to Brock. Some people were telling me, well, why wouldn't he have come back out and cost Brock the Rumble match once he knew he was in there at the end? And let's see what the promo with him and Heyman is on SmackDown Friday night first. Roman could say, I wanted to do this because I want Brock to challenge me on the big stage where once and for all, I am going to beat the beast and prove I am the head of the table. Look, first of all, if he comes out as a chicken shit and with Heyman and they make weird excuses, then we can critique the way that happened. But I think Roman Reigns is going to say he wanted to face Lesnar. And it's just a weird way to get there. But We got to see.
Oh, wait, right quick. I think I forgot you
Yeah.
saying that, Virtue made me remember. I guess there's a part where we also mentioned Rousey. Yeah, that was my only thing about this. Like Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch. I don't know if I'm feeling this whole cowardly Becky versus Ronda. I mean, it worked so much better when she was a rebel, getting in her face, not scared. So
you might not get that.
This is gonna be off.
You might not get that.
I think it's going to be Ronda and Charlotte and Belair and Becky.
And then next year they'll make everybody wait another year for Becky and Ronda, because Becky needs to be babyface for that. Let's face it. So that gives them time to do that.
Inevitably, what about the Charlotte match? I mean, are you trying to turn Charlotte babyface? Because putting her opposite of Rousey, I'm pretty sure is going to turn
I've
Charlotte
challenged
babyface.
like if somebody like Paul Heyman or somebody could talk to Charlotte behind the scenes and say they're not going to like Rousey. You need to be the best heel you've ever been to get at least 70% of these people behind Rousey. That's what heels were always supposed to do. Question is, does Charlotte have it in her to do that? Like if Charlotte was really good at her job and she's a natural heel, right? Because she just is not likable because she's like that, the flair, the queen, I'm better than you. If Charlotte can get people to like Rousey, that to me would be a success and a win. But and it's also not just on Charlotte to do it. WWE has to allow her to go out there and be so nasty. People just want to cheer for Charlotte. And that's a lost thing in wrestling too. They just they don't give them those opportunities to connect with the fans. And then everything's like shades of gray, or fans completely hate somebody.
Or do you pivot and make it a triple threat with Sasha so that the fans rally behind Sasha? People are indifferent to Charlotte and they dislike Rousey.
What about Bayley? Walter Cruz brought up Bayley coming back soon.
I mean, maybe. I mean, especially in a 4-way, you could protect her.
Yeah, you could.
But
if they go Becky and Bianca for the other Raw Women's title, like what Jargo just said, Sasha makes the most sense to put in there with the big match feel. Nothing against Bayley, but Sasha had that big match with Belair last year, so that would be interesting. And again, then you have Rousey in another triple threat, which could protect Rousey to a point since she doesn't do this all the time. We'll see. Ready to move on?
Yep.
Ready, people? I know this is what everybody comes to the NoDQ review. AEW, specifically MJF versus CM Punk from Dynamite. I know this thing's been going on and on since Jargo told me, I believe, November. And they almost couldn't do the first match at the pay-per-view because it would have just took too long to get there. So here we are, first match in the books in Chicago. MJF went over. I feel they didn't do their best stuff overall because they are going to have a bigger match at the pay-per-view, and this thing's obviously going to keep going. So, Big G, what do you think here? Because this is like, I feel deflated sometimes because not that it's AEW, but there's just so many things AEW like puts – we got a world champion, even though it doesn't seem like we have a world champion. Cody's always getting, meddling with something. You got the rise of Sammy Guevara. Then you have MJF and Punk. You got Danielson. And it just, I feel like it's all put on a platter and nothing's presented as super important. And if anything was, it'd be the CM Punk MJF thing.
Right.
What did you think here? Because we got one match in the book, so it ain't over.
No, I don't think it isn't over. I mean, we got Revolution coming up in March, I believe. I feel like they're going to do another match there. Honestly, I wasn't that big in the match last night. I mean, I watched it. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't feeling it, to be honest. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. I mean,
was it the figure 4 MJF was trying to do outside the ring there?
Not only
this
that,
didn't look as crisp as I would have liked for these two.
Why would you, when MJF had choked out CM Punk with the tape, I was like, really, you're gonna have the match end like that, and then you're gonna restart the match just for CM Punk to lose again? Yeah, and you had Wardlow out there, and he threw the Dynamite ring to MJF, and MJF won the heelish way. But I don't know. Maybe if they had the match at the pay-per-view, it'll feel bigger. But I wasn't feeling that match last night.
Okay, and that's fair enough. Jargo, I'm going to come over to you. Is like when Big G says that, it got me thinking. I think maybe part of me not feeling it as much for this feud, and not because I want to hate AEW, because trust me, this is the feud I've talked of. Anything AEW, non-Dan Lambert, obviously, you know why I like him, but it's Punk and MJF, and now we got it. Is it the Punk factor, the Punk side of this, that might be deflating me? Because it's just Punk's not really the Punk that I remembered. I don't know. What do you think with Big G and I kind of being in that like deflate mode right now with this feud?
I mean, part of it is that this feud has been going on since a week before Thanksgiving, and they blew their load right off the bat with that killer promo battle. And it's all been kind of downhill from there as we build to the match. It's kind of like this weird inverse reaction, right? So I do feel like this is only chapter 1 inside of this story. The problem I have, I'm with you guys as far as the false finish goes. The false finish completely took me out of things, like especially in the AEW universe where the rules are so lackluster to begin with. Like one of the biggest complaints is that they don't enforce the rules. Now, all of a sudden, this is the match where Bryce Remsburg is like, oh, no, we can't have that. So we're going to restart it. And to do that in Chicago, it was like you deflated the crowd twice. And I understand it. I think it was the right booking for MJF to go over. Again, I just didn't care for the presentation of the match. I would have rather seen MJF just somehow with some chicanery beat CM Punk. I could have completely done without the false finish. It completely took me out of it, especially when coming out of the false finish, as Bryce restarts the match, Punk just rolls up MJF, and all of a sudden, like, oh, it's fine if the babyface just, bends the rules to beat the heel. And Bryce jumps down and like it's almost a fast count. MJF kicks out at 2, but it's just like it just felt so manufactured.
Fair enough. I mean, and again, like you are more of an AEW watcher, and giving it more benefit of the doubt than I am. And it's good to see some, people critique it, not just somebody that wants to be, on WWE side, like the AEW people want to hate everything WWE. This is what I like. Now, Son, I'm interested in what you're going to say about this, because aren't you from Chicago, CM Punk land?
Yeah, there was quite a bit of snow here, so I was surprised to see the arena as packed as it was. Crowd heat was awesome, but I think this feud, MJF and CM Punk, along with Bryan Danielson and Hangman, has really kind of made me wonder if it's too much of a build, too long for a build up to go every once a season, like 4 times a year. They threw so much at MJF and CM Punk with those promos. They were great, but it felt like just right before we're getting to Revolution, it's like, okay, we ran out of material. We got to have these guys wrestle now. Same thing with Bryan Danielson and Hangman. They threw all those big matches that they had, and now, halfway before we get to Revolution, they got to go somewhere else new. And it's kind of like they might have to start structuring their big build-ups to be more out, or just maybe wait several weeks before you get there. It's a tough deal. I mean, because you want to pick fans right off where the last pay-per-view left off. So something they have to work on. As far as the match goes, MJF and CM Punk, as a person who loves story, I love a lot of the story elements. I love when he took the string to strangle CM Punk and then put him in the sleeper, and then the referee realized at the end. And I thought the way they did the camera work towards the end, how you never saw Wardlow until they showed the replay, handing him the diamond ring, was really good. So there was some really good story spots. I noticed Jim Ross, when it comes to these type of matches, does a much better job at keeping up with the action. Maybe it went a little too long, especially with you having MJ come out with the unclean finish. At some point, I would like to see him beat Punk clean, just so CM Punk can come out and say, you know what, I hate your guts, but I respect you because you beat me in this ring fair and square. Like, I would love to see that. Huge endorsement. So I guess they're going to go with a rematch later on down the line. Maybe shorten it a little bit, but I did think some of the story parts were very clever and well done. And that's pretty much what I got to say for that one.
Yeah.
And it would make sense that the next match is going to be a stipulation match of some kind, whether it be like a cage match or what, just to keep everybody else out of it. So I mean, it all works.
Oh. And I was gonna say, Aaron, because I know you say it on your views all the time. Babyface, is it the dumb babyface syndrome or something like that?
This week.
when CM Punk was faced to Wardlow, I was hoping CM Punk would like, go ahead and hit me, cost me the match, and hit me. Like, it'd be cool to see a babyface do that for once. Like, what are you scared of? Like, yeah, hit me so I can win the match. That's right. Go ahead, backfire on your guy. I would love to see that.
Well, at least he was recognizing that Wardlow might not be trusted. He just didn't like, oh, cool, you're my friend, that sort of thing.
Now, Aaron, I'm going to pass it over to you. In terms of like the old school elements, like the tape and stuff like that, I'm noticing that more and more with CM Punk matches. Of something like a tribute to like a past match in history or like some old school psychology. MJF could have come up with that, right? But like, so I do like CM Punk, like anything he's involved, I notice that more than others. And I guess maybe even Daniel Bryan, see, I'm a WWE guy here. Right. Danielson as well. And we need more. Wrestling needs more of that stuff. So over to you, Aaron, on this topic.
Yeah,
and any super chats.
I really enjoyed the match. I know it wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but you know what? When every match is high spot, it was a nice change of pace. I think Sun really nailed it with what he said. If I had any criticism of the match, I think maybe it was a little too long considering it was their first match. And I'm thinking it's going to lead to follow-up matches. I don't think they needed to go that long with the match. And the numbers were not as high as people were hoping as far as viewership went. They were under 1 million this week for the match. Not sure what that says, but everybody made great points. They peaked with that promo a couple of months ago, and really that should have been right before the match instead of like 2 months before the match. I like the idea of doing a follow-up. I think there will be another match with them. I would love to see maybe another blood and guts match with a full crowd this time. MJF has the Pinnacle, of course. CM Punk can bring in some guys. This would be a nice opportunity to bring in maybe a few new people. Maybe he brings in Keith Lee or somebody to represent him in a blood and guts match. And I think that's another thing too. I think some people are expecting surprise names to show up on Dynamite on a regular basis now. When they don't show up, people get disappointed. And when this match started so early, I think maybe people were thinking, well, is somebody going to show up at the end, like a Keith Lee or Killer Cross or something like that? But you can't really blame AEW for that one. They can't bring in new people every single week. Eventually, they would run out of people, as many people that are available. And they really need to stop bringing in new people on a regular basis and focus on the guys that they have. So I enjoyed the match. And there was a comment that was made during an interview about CM Punk by Paul Heyman. And I do think that CM Punk is in danger of becoming a nostalgia act. And that's kind of the vibe I've been getting from him as of late. He's a little bit too watered down. We need to see something evolve with him. I'm not sure what it is, but we got to see something change with him over the next couple months. Maybe MJF beats him again and CM Punk just stops giving a damn or something happens and he just snaps. But yeah, I'm hoping we will see some kind of evolution with his character in AEW because right now he just feels like, the CM Punk kind of watered down baby face, like kind of like the 2011 CM Punk, like Summer of Punk, just more watered down than what he was during that period.
If we are to assume that we get MJF versus Punk in a rematch at Revolution, what is Hangman's match at Revolution? Because I feel like all the major players are already involved in other things.
Yeah, good question, because now Jon Moxley is involved with Bryan Danielson. Although maybe if they form a team...
Triple thread it up, Jargo. There you go.
Yeah, that's a possibility too.
I think they're going a good direction with Bryan Danielson, the way he bashes what the AEW audience likes. So I think that's a good direction for him.
Yeah, that's a possibility as well. We do have a few super chats here, so let me get to those. Hamp Connell sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Hamp. He says, AEW should try the house show approach to their pay-per-views, like $10 to $20. Then the big shows are $50. That sounds like TNA, something they used to do back in the day. What do you guys think? Do you think that would work? I'm not sure. I think they got a good thing going with their pay-per-views. They seem to be doing pretty decent buy rates. I don't know if I would mess with that. Anybody have an opinion on that one?
If they do more, what do they have? 4 pay-per-views a year?
Yeah.
If they evolve to 5 or 6, but no more, and then you can at least have a month of no pay-per-view, but then you don't have to wait too long for the next one. But yeah, that would be it. Like no more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think AEW fans are loyal enough that they might shell out money for 6. I mean, AEW could try
5 or 6, yeah.
And I think that those fans would still pay the money too. I mean, it might work for them. It's something they may want to experiment with. And if it, they could try a 5th one. And if it doesn't work, they could always just scale it back to 4. I mean, I certainly think it's worth trying out at some point.
I mean, the other thing you have to take into account is they do make a whole bunch of money off their TV rights fees. They need people to watch the TV shows. That's kind of why they have these themed shows like Winter is Coming and Beach Break, stuff like that. So, I mean, that makes sense there. And then they are going to have more exclusive specials on TNT like Battle of the Belts. So they need people to watch those shows too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Psycho Jet Black on the similar topic said, should AEW have 6 pay-per-views for better feud pacing? Again, I think it's something worth trying, maybe adding a 5th one. It's really hard to say what the right approach is because they're doing well with their current format with the pay-per-views, and they got a good TV deal. So why mess with it? If it's working out for them, why try and change it up too much? But yeah, when people say WWE should maybe scale back their pay-per-views, I'm always like, I think they got a good format with the 1 a month thing. We only have to pay the $5 on Peacock, and it keeps the storylines moving with monthly pay-per-views. Whenever there's like a 2-month gap, then they really slow down, and it hurts the quality of the shows. At my opinion.
Guys, isn't that amazing? Remember, like when they got rid of the pay-per-view structure, great for us. Paying even WWE Network, right, for the people like overseas. I don't know how much it is for you, but before the Peacock thing happened here in the United States, it was $10, and we get all of them plus all the past content. And you could look at it from a business standpoint, like how are they gonna they're not gonna get all those buy rates now. We're adding subscriptions up times this many. And now look at it, Jargo. They're getting these companies to pay them millions and billions for streaming rights, for content rights. So now it's like hard to question that decision. I just wonder that vision of how they knew it was going to evolve to this. I mean, maybe they talked to Netflix people, our business is really growing. You want to start streaming. Trust us. Trust me.
I think the Bruce Pritchard, I believe, is quoted as saying the first time that he heard something about the WWF network was in like 1994. Oh God. Vince had that vision then, but of course at that time he thought it was going to be a cable channel.
Well, yeah, remember WWE 24/7? There was that actually was something before. Right. It was like maybe a test water, and I think that was kind of through cable.
Yeah, Vince had that vision very, very early on for what would become, the WWE network. I wish it was still the WWE network because number one, as people that cover the industry, it's a whole lot easier to track subscriber counts and where fan interest is. But they were still trying to get you to buy the network. Now it doesn't even feel like they're trying. It's like the business model flipped. Like it used to be that you would have to watch Raw and SmackDown to get you to buy the pay-per-view. Now they give away the pay-per-views, hopefully to get you to watch Raw and SmackDown.
Good point. That's a very good point. It has pretty much flipped at this point.
And look, we like the whole network, the Peacock thing here in the United States. Now they're touting these numbers of like Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, Survivor Series of being upviewed from the past. Like, How do you explain that, Jargo? I mean, I'm sure there's got to be some validity to that, but are these people really being engaged with the shows? Just because Royal Rumble might be 25% up in viewership streaming, is it like people that are watching because they want to, or are they stumbling across it because they're casuals on Peacock that don't even know about WWE?
Probably.
One of the most frustrating things in the world that has come to light throughout the course of the pandemic for me are statistics. Because there is a lot of the COVID statistics that are getting thrown out left and right, where it's like, up 128%. Okay, great. What was the baseline? Like, was it 2? or was it 2 million? And you're up 128%. Like, statistics without context mean absolutely nothing unless you're a business person trying to blow smoke up a stockholder's ass. And there's a lot of that in that financial report.
And yeah, 1.2 billion revenue this quarter. Oh man, here comes the money. And Aaron, before we go to our main event topic of Shane McMahon, a couple more super chats there.
Yeah, here comes.
And then you might as well read the Shane McMahon one from earlier, and that'll start our main event.
Sounds good. Here comes
that
the
guaranteed money for WWE. That's why the storylines are the way they are now. There's no incentive.
And
yeah, I know. Spoiler alert, next quarter, they're going to make more money than they ever have before because, once again, the rights fees go up. They go up every quarter. So every quarter, they make the most money that they've ever made before. In their life.
And Nick Khan was talking about how they might even do more Saudi Arabia shows. Why just do 2?
It's hilarious when you actually look through the report. They refuse to mention Saudi Arabia by name.
Well, I don't blame them on that one. Mo Camera sent in $2.79. He says, I hope Vince comes to his senses and releases Roman Reigns. Why in his right mind would he do that?
Because, Mo Camera just once again paid Aaron Rift to mention Roman Reigns. I get a kick out of that every time.
I know you do. I do too. Nick Lavin sent in a $7 super chat. Thank you, Nick. Much appreciated. He says, I did enjoy that it was a slower paced match talking about CM Punk and MJF, which is not common for an AEW match. I think they definitely need more psychological / story matches. Agree. A nice balance is always a positive. You don't want to have too much of any one thing. And MJF is looking really good for like a possible WWE run someday. The fact that he can work those kind of slower paced, more story driven matches. I think that. Well,
yeah, I mean, the Miz is going to have to retire at some point, and they need somebody to fill that slot. And MJF is the most logical choice.
There you go. Yeah. A less famous Miz. Maybe one day he'll be equally as famous.
There you go.
All right, Mr. Anderson sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Mr. Anderson. And then we'll get to his other one. First, he said CM Punk gets Luke Gallows from Impact to show up on Dynamite, and Serena Deeb joins them. And we got an AEW Straight Edge Society reunion taking on MJF.
I mean, I enjoyed that gimmick, but that was before what we saw in 2011. And now I could never go back to that Punk because I'd want more of him just bashing what he hates instead of the straight edge stuff, which was cool for the time.
And again, it's just nostalgia. Like if they did that, it's blatantly doing a WWE storyline in AEW. I don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, the thing is, CM Punk needs a machine to rage against, right? And to this point, we've just had Happy Phil.
Exactly.
I was going to say, I did enjoy CM Punk's tribute when Serena came out, and he said, nice, lovely set of hair she has there.
That was a nice little callback. I did appreciate that. All right, so now Mr. Anderson, he sent in $10. Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for your super chats. He says, at an AEW Rampage, or on AEW Rampage this week, we see a limo pull up. It's Shane McMahon. He goes out to the ring, says he bought AEW, and then says, Vince, see you next Monday on Raw, and we get an AEW invasion angle for WrestleMania. All right, Mr. Anderson.
Oh.
That is a nice pipe dream right there, my friend. First of all, AEW Rampage has already been taped. Second of all, ain't going to happen, bottom line. As much as we'd love to see it happen, I would say there's pretty much zero chance that Shane McMahon ever goes to AEW. What do you guys think? Anybody think there's even a remote chance?
Fun, but I'll steal your catchphrase of unlikely in all likelihood. But it would be fun if it happened.
Because say that these alleged allegations are true and Shane was just getting really edgy and like egotistical and like wanting his way to happen, like whatever happened at the Royal Rumble. Do you think, and Tony Khan believes these dirt sheets, do you think he would want that in his company? No.
Very good point.
And I don't even see the value in Shane McMahon in 2022. Like if this was 2002, maybe like I would see more value in Shane, but at this point, I don't even see the value.
A McMahon on AEW would be nuts to me. Like nobody thinks it's going to happen, which is why if it did happen, it would get everybody talking, I think.
But I think if Shane's not doing wrestling in WWE, he's doing whatever else he's done. Remember, I said this on Twitter. He was gone for 7 years before being gone for 7 years was cool. When he left in 2009 and he was doing his business ventures, non-wrestling, whatever it was, he came back to help the good old fam, right? There were the network stuff was going, and he got the big WrestleMania matches, and that's really all I thought Shane came back for, to get paid for matches at Mania. I didn't think he was going to want to get entrenched into the business anymore. So when I hear these rumors about what happened, and he was gone, well, at least on TV, he kind of did that stuff with Owens, best in the world and all that, and he was gone for a while, and you just never really heard dirt sheets talk about Shane. It was like Vince and Bruce Pritchard and Nick Khan, and you knew Stephanie was still there in some capacity. I'm just shocked with these rumors of Shane McMahon. Like, let's go around the horn and we'll see what the chat says too. I need to hear more people's opinions before I can just go off on what I think this whole thing means. So Big G, Shane McMahon out of WWE. It's weird because I didn't know, I don't know what these people's contracts are, or when you're in the family business, how many shares does he have? I didn't think he really had a role other than he was an on-air talent when they needed him.
Right.
So, Big G, what do you think here?
See, here's my thing.
Yeah.
You can read all these dirt sheets and, go from left to right, but you won't know anything unless you're backstage and seeing what's actually going on, Shane McMahon, we heard, all these Rumble changes that Riddle was supposed to win, and then Orton was possibly supposed to win, and then it went to Lesnar, and, and morale was down and whatnot. How are you supposed to, how should I put this? I don't know how to explain it.
Big G, while you're thinking of that, I just want to add this to you. Okay. So as we see dirt sheets report all this bad stuff, scripts getting ripped up, and I'm not saying that's none of it's true. Obviously, portion of this stuff is true, but WWE gets slammed with the negative news. AEW, it's always positive.
Yeah,
it's just maybe I don't know.
So how are you supposed to run a company and make your employees happy when you're changing things up 1 minute and then changing it up another minute, like the day of the Rumble? Now, if it was a week or so beforehand, that's fine. It'll give them enough time to all right, we're going to have this person win it. And then maybe a day later or so, okay, no, we'll change it to this person. And then, but not the day of the Rumble, and Shane and Vince have two major egos. And I'm sure they butt heads so many times. And I think Shane was the one who probably had not the higher ground, but took the higher ground and said, you know what, go ahead and fire me. I'm done with this. We've known he's done good outside of WWE because he left in 2009 and didn't come back to 2016. So we know he can do other stuff. And
I think he still had his hands in a lot of those cookie jars and still doing stuff outside of WWE.
And
I think.
And Shane showing up to AEW, I mean, that would make no sense at all. It's like Aaron said, it's like a pipe dream pretty much. But, Shane will be better off without WWE. I mean, you mentioned good points too, Virtue. He was pretty much there for the big match at WrestleManias, Undertaker, AJ Styles.
Put Kevin Owens over multiple times.
Strowman last year, and then, but yeah, I mean, Shane will be good off without WWE. Triple H is not running anything in NXT anymore. Stephanie, I'm sure she's going to be the next one out because she's going to support Triple H. So ultimately, Vince is going to sell the company to Nick Khan.
So
when it comes down to it, the McMahon family is not going to run WWE in the next 20 years. another Khan, Nick Khan, will be running WWE.
So Big G brings up a good point. You have, 20 years ago, and we don't know, right? Vince had that vision, Jargo, of the network in 1994. We never know what he was thinking, but I'm sure on Shane and Stephanie's mind, and I'm talking before Shane left to do other business ventures in 2009. You think what would happen when Vince moves on? Shane McMahon, Stephanie McMahon. We won't even count Triple H. Family business is going to stay in the family. It's going to continue. Well, where are we now? WWE's expanding globally. They're building up to what would look like to sell. Nick Khan is Vince McMahon's right-hand man. Family, you got you're millionaires, you're rich, you got your shares, but this ain't going to be your baby anymore. And could it be could Shane coming in and could he be edgy and pissed off because he sees his family business turning into this something they won't have one day when Vince is gone? What do you think here, Jargo? Because you and I were talking, this does not seem right with everything that happened with Shane here. And he's getting all this heat. He's a McMahon. Wouldn't they think the same thing about Vince McMahon running the show and having it his way and talent being pissed? This does not make sense to me.
The thing that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me is the fact that we've never heard this about Shane as long as Shane has been around, right? It just seems like this entire thing is a very, very out of his character and just kind of came out of nowhere, which is what makes it a bit suspect. As far as Shane is concerned inside of the company and Stephanie and Hunter, the whole thing, I don't think anybody expected Vince McMahon to still be doing this when he's, 73 years old. I think people thought that Vince was going to be out a long freaking time ago. At this point, Triple H is 52 years old. Shane McMahon is 52 years old. We're not talking about young guys here at this point. Shane doesn't need to be in pro wrestling. Shane's got other business things to do. And hell, Shane's 10 years away from retirement. He's got all the freaking money that he's ever going to need. Shane doesn't need to do anything at this point. And it just seems like we're just single-handedly cutting everybody out of the deal. Hunter was the first one to go. Now Shane's on the way out. I'd love to sit down and pick Stephanie's brain, just kind of see where in the hell she's at right now. She's still the chief branding officer for the company, going off and giving executive speeches. In the meantime, your husband's been cut out. Your brother's been cut out. Your dad's senile and needs to be locked away in a home. How does Stephanie feeling about things these days?
Thank you.
And look, throughout the years, when I look, it was always Vince McMahon's company to me. Stephanie was the one where you could see her wanting to get into that position to do what her dad did, right? I mean, she wanted to get in at creative, and she did do all these things. Shane never came across that way to me. I see Tito purge Shane. Shane was always, to me, a performer. He liked to do the wild, weird, crazy stuff and have the matches, not be the guy backstage, from what I could see, not be the guy backstage trying to be the next McMahon to take over the throne. Yep. So to me, I'm disappointed that any of this happened, that Shane was even in a position to where he had to agent this Rumble match and shit hit the fan, because all I ever wanted to see Shane do was be a performer on TV. And I know to some that got tiring and old. The punches looked like crap, but he had a lot of great memories, and he put a lot of people over. And that's the Shane that I've this last 48 hours. I told Aaron Rifter that I said he's in my top 5 sports entertainers. I didn't say wrestlers of all time now, because now I'm seeing all this crap and people saying he wants to take power over and he sucks at it and this and that. I don't think he ever wanted to do that. Everything he did outside of WWE had nothing to do with the wrestling business, and he was pretty successful. Why would he want to come back and run WWE? So I think this is just more of him and Dad had a fight. I don't know. What do you think, Son?
Yeah, I was going to say earlier with that men's Royal Rumble, I use this analogy in my review. It's like a dish with really delicious looking food on it. Just like the Royal Rumble is fun and you expect it to be exciting, and then you put the food in your mouth and it has no flavor at all. And then that Royal Rumble, the way it's executed, so many things they could have done. I don't know why they didn't build Omos up as a monster and then have other wrestlers, that one big wrestler come out, build multiple storylines, maybe something with Riddle and Randy Orton. None of it. It's just wrestler comes out, a wrestler goes out, Brock Lesnar's here, throw everyone out. And then when it's all said and done, you ate the flavorless food and you're like, well, I'm no longer hungry. Didn't enjoy it, but I'm no longer hungry. We get to the Rumble, didn't really enjoy it, but we got to the destination of Brock. So it was like that whole thing was off. And then you hear all these reports about Shane McMahon. You're like, oh, okay, so they're using these reports about Shane as basically making him the one to blame for all this. Yeah, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We can only go by what's been shown and what we're reading up on. As far as this, I'll say this: it must have been something really bad if Shane McMahon is the one being let go from WWE. Something went down. I don't know all the specifics. I don't know what's exaggerated here or if something here did really happen, but it must have been really bad if Shane McMahon ended up having to leave the company. And that probably sets a huge example for a lot of people. Like, even the boss's son is not safe. I think, was it you?
Quietly, by the way, remember? Quietly.
Yeah, quietly.
Who came up with quietly? Because it's all over. Like, there's no quietly about it.
It almost made it sound like Vince was like, listen, son, we're going to have to let you go. I don't want to do it, but we got to let you go. And the thing is, at the end of the day, Vince has the ability to get the final say-so on this. So if Shane, and this is where I was wondering, if Shane really was this out of control, Vince could just shut it down right there. I know. I was gonna finish up saying too is it was mentioned earlier if Stephanie left the company. I think that would probably be the biggest shocker. Like, out of everybody who ever left WWE, if Stephanie of all people, we've seen Linda, we've seen Shane leave. If Stephanie left WWE, that would probably be the biggest talk. That's something you never thought you'd see. So I guess we got to see where all this goes. I think Shane will be back, if for nothing else, a Hall of Fame induction. I think maybe all the McMahons will go in. Love to see Vince go in before his time comes, but I don't know if we're ever going to see it. Vince McMahon inducts himself, but so I don't know. We'll see as the coming stories come out about this with Shane McMahon. Virtue, you made a lot of great points. Shane was always that, in the Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era, he was always that fun McMahon you look forward to. His matches, out of all the McMahons, you look forward to it, and he had that big pop in 2016. I was there for the Raw before in 2016, before what was it? One of those shows they had where Dean Ambrose and Triple H wrestled, but that was cool. We were all cheering, and it just seemed like the way they booked him over the years, like that Miz storyline really did with the Miz, that didn't do any favors, and I think that's what a lot of people got tired of, and seeing him throw Kevin Owens and box with Riddle. Like, I think for a lot of people inside and outside the business, that's where it was becoming too much, but we'll see as things go on. But at the very least, I think Shane goes into the Hall of Fame.
And guys, let's not forget that Raw Underground got shut down too. Did Vince shut that down? Jargo, you were going to say something a little bit ago.
Well, as we're sitting here talking about it, something just kind of occurs to me. Let's stop thinking about things inside of a wrestling context for a second.
Okay.
And let's think about things in a corporate America kind of context. Is there some kind of heat on management, whether it be from a business partner, whether it be from a network, and they needed somebody's head to roll, and Shane was just, the least important McMahon. So we go ahead, we make this move, and Shane's basically the scapegoat for the company.
That's what people are thinking.
That's such a WWE way, such a McMahon way. It's weird.
It's a Nick Khan way.
Well, it is but it's weird because you would think Vince wouldn't want a McMahon name in this type of thing at all, and the fact that it got leaked, and I don't know.
But if you need one, Shane is the least important McMahon.
Yeah, and that can go outside of wrestling and be okay. Like, what would Stephanie do outside of wrestling, right? Vince would probably be like, oh, she wouldn't know what to do. And maybe she could. Shane's already did it. So, Shane, go do your stuff again. There you go. I don't know.
Stephanie will run for Senate.
At what point, like, Aaron, I'm going to pass it over to you now. At what point are we going to be talking about Shane McMahon's return? It's like, with the name McMahon, and as long as Vince is still in charge, I mean, he's always brought people back, except CM Punk.
Exactly. Well, I
don't know if they even tried with him, but
I think CM Punk could show up one day. Anything is possible. Literally anything is possible. But my gut feeling is Shane will be back one day. Don't know when. Don't know in what capacity. Maybe Hall of Fame. Maybe a authority figure role. Maybe another match. Who knows? But he'll be back one day, I'm thinking. That would be my safe prediction. The one thing I don't understand about all this is how hard was it to just have Shane McMahon come out there and eliminate Austin Theory, and then Shane goes out. You set up a WrestleMania match with them. They've been doing this storyline with Vince and Austin Theory. Shane coming out there to teach Austin Theory a lesson and set up a match. Shane McMahon puts over Austin Theory at WrestleMania. Seemed like a no-brainer to me. I'm just not understanding why that was.
And the thing is, there didn't even last that long in the Rumble.
They're saying Shane's ego got involved and he wanted spotlight. And I never knew Shane was like that.
They were talking
I've never heard that about Shane.
That's why I'm having trouble with this, Jargo. I can't believe
same.
That.
Something just doesn't feel right about this entire situation. Like the whole narrative being put out. Like Stephanie has more of an ego than Shane does. It's always felt that way. Shane always felt like the cool McMahon that dudes like hanging out with backstage and was trying to be one of the boys. And now all of a sudden there's all this heat on him and the entire production staff is pissed and
for politics.
The boys are pissed. And it's like, really? Shane McMahon, 52-year-old Shane McMahon, like all of a sudden feels like he's a WrestleMania main eventer? Like, really?
There were rumors about Shane McMahon versus Bobby Lashley, which really makes no sense to me. Like, why would they do Bobby Lashley versus Shane McMahon?
Well, they did have to remember they do have some history from back in the day with the ECW title when Lashley was ECW champion and he had the feud with him in the hands.
That was do-rag Vince McMahon era. I remember that.
Yeah, and then Seth Rollins versus Shane McMahon, which again doesn't really make much sense to me. Like, there's so many better matches for Seth Rollins. Now, I know there was a comment on Twitter like, don't knock it because AJ Styles and Shane McMahon had a really good match at WrestleMania. But I'm like, you could do Seth Rollins versus Bobby Lashley. You could do Seth Rollins versus any number of people. You could team him up with Kevin Owens. Like, there's so many things you can do with him for WrestleMania that make more sense than Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon should have been with Austin Theory. But anyways, Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says Triple H has a better chance of joining AEW than Shane McMahon. Probably right on that one. But I really think neither of them are going to be in AEW. I know people are speculating about it, but I think it's very unlikely. And the new normal Jerry Slaughter sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Jerry. Says, Shane will probably still return before Veer, quote, debuts. Yeah.
I still say Veer should have been number 30 in the Rumble, and then Brock Lesnar should have murdered him on the way to the ring.
There you go.
Yeah. Or you know what? My little alternative to that was if number 30 Veer is out and you have Michael Cole. Well, we've been hearing Veer is coming, and now here he is, and there's just nothing. And the referee or the announcer has to go, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, Veer is still coming to Raw. So the number 30 spot is now open, and then Brock comes out. I would have cracked up. But see, like, why didn't they think of creative stuff like that in this?
Dude, I even said like. And she wouldn't have done this, but like, could you imagine if they got Nia Jax to come back and she wasn't because she was in the men's Rumble before. Imagine if her music hit for number 30. She's walking out there with her like look, and then Brock came out and didn't beat her up because it's touchy, it's 2022, but just pushed her out of the way. She fell down, and then boom, people are like, Brock, yeah, you just took out Nia Jax. We would have been so pissed if she was number 30.
She did R-Truth.
Virtue,
were you thinking the way she did R-Truth that time?
Yep.
Yeah. And there could have been just little outs just to make that ending a little more interesting, even with all the baby faces in there. I don't know.
Or even if you would have had Sami Zayn getting ready to come out at number 30 and his good friend Brock Lesnar comes walking up and he's like, give me your number, Sami.
Yeah.
But I don't want give me your number, Sami. Like, it's just like that would have been great too. Just to pay off that story.
So it's very weird.
All right, let's see here. Walter Cruz sent in a $2 super chat. He says, this could all be a work to tie into Austin Theory. I don't think so.
I mean,
again,
what's funny? Detail. This all happened just before the quarter financial report, too. Like, this is just absolutely – I'm baffled, Jargo. I will – after discussing this, I will continue to be baffled.
I think when you read through the quarterly financial reports and you see just how much they bury the WWE fans inside of that quarterly financial report, they want the fans paying attention to something else right now.
And the fans aren't their number one customer anymore. It's the cable, it's the networks, the Saudis, The streaming services, those are the number one customers for WWE. Fans are secondary like merch used to be.
I would like to point out it is no longer Saudi Arabia. That is now a large-scale international event.
Country redacted, as Noah would say.
You see, that's why as fans, I said in my review, we all just have to hope, because there's nothing in WWE's recent history that shows they're going to do anything different. We can just hope that the storyline is good, the match pays off, and sometimes it'll happen that way, and we're reminded why we love this show. It's going to be far and few in between when it's the big stuff that happens. That's the thing.
And maybe it'd be a good idea to not go on the internet and read stuff, because like I said, I actually did enjoy the Royal Rumble, and maybe you'd get more enjoyment out of not following the internet stuff and just watching the shows and not dissecting every little business decision that they make, which is what we tend to do.
Well, and that's the thing, Aaron, I was going into that event wanting two major things: Roman to keep the title for various reasons. The Heyman swerve I was giving up on, that still happened. And then Rousey came back. So granted, Jargo said the presentation could have been way better, but I went into something getting what I wanted. I didn't like back when I was a kid watching a Golden Era wrestling. There was a lot of poor execution, but if I got what I wanted, I was happy with it. And I'm trying to be simple, like Noah Foster.
Yeah, just enjoy life and enjoy wrestling, as he would say. But we do have a few more super chats here, so let's get into those real quick.
And Big G, feel free to chime in once in a while here, just because I'm not going to you.
No, I know.
Okay.
Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Says Vince adopts Austin Theory becoming Austin McMahon. Didn't they do that angle kind of with Mr. Kennedy, but then Kennedy got suspended?
They did that whole thing with Vince's illegitimate child, and it ended up being like Hornswoggle.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder what they're smoking back there when they come up with these stupid ideas.
You know, the worst part for me is they think that this is getting over Austin Theory, like all this screen time with Vince. And it very well is. It's keeping him relevant on the show. You know what else would keep him relevant on the show? Winning wrestling matches.
Yeah.
No, he did.
And remember, any wrestler that they used to push back in the day won matches.
Yeah. In case you're keeping track, Austin Theory, since getting called up after WrestleMania last year, now 10-31 in the WWE.
Hey, Jargo, I don't know if you've heard it. There's a funny interview where CM Punk was talking about how they wanted Roman Reigns to wrestle him, but they wanted Punk to go over, but they wanted him to look really strong. So they kept coming up to him all through the night. Make Roman look strong, but you
gotta make Roman look strong.
And he's like, you know what'll make him look really strong is if you actually have him go over me. And he's like, no, we don't want that for the story. We want you over, but just make him look strong. And I'm like, that's probably what they're doing with Austin Theory. I wouldn't be surprised he told AJ, hey, make him look real strong out there, but you're going over.
I really hope that Tony Khan went up to CM Punk before the Wardlow match and said, now make sure you make Wardlow look strong.
I'm pretty sure he did.
All right, let's see here. We got Hamp Kano with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Hamp. He says, Vince at this point should just pull a Ted Turner and hire a young guy to run the company and give him a blank checkbook, then retire on a beach in Florida.
Nick Khan is younger. Nick Khan is a young guy.
How young isn't he, like 50?
Well, compared to Vince is 72.
Yeah, 75. Is it Vince 75? I think Vince is 75, but I'm not sure off the top of my head.
He looks. He's still obviously the same, but you can tell he's aging.
And he's not going to retire. Vince's idea of a good time is working out and running his company.
The day, I don't want to sound negative here, the day Vince McMahon dies, he's going to be sitting in gorilla position.
Or next to his dinosaur exhibit in his office.
or that too.
Let's see. Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat. He says, for After Dark, what do you think about adding CM Punk to the Moxley and Bryan idea? They form a group. They take younger talent under their wings.
Nick Khan is only 45.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, he's relatively young. All right. But what do you guys think about this idea with CM Punk being working together with Moxley and Bryan?
Well, that's if Moxley and Bryan even get together.
Yeah, that might not even happen. I mean, this
might just be planting seeds for a feud between them two.
That could be interesting, though. We'll see what
But
they
see,
do.
our AEW does not need, I repeat, does not need any more factions.
Unless they get rid of a couple, and then.
Well, I think. Well, I'm going to be in Atlantic City next week for AEW, and they have an Inner Circle meeting. So I think Inner Circle is officially breaking up next week.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Every time
look at it.
You get back together.
You got Sammy doing his thing with the TNT title. He does not need Jericho anymore. Jericho is doing his thing. He's got he's doing his AEW and then his Fozzy stuff. You got Santana Ortiz doing stuff with Eddie, and I'm sure they want a tag title shot. And when was the last time we saw Hager do anything in AEW?
No, it's been a while since he had that. What was it, like an MMA style match
with Wardlow? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been that long. I mean, you see him like do a run-in once in a while, but honestly, you haven't seen Hager do anything.
No.
So I honestly think Inner Circle is done next week.
Well, we'll see. Every time they tease it, it ends up not happening. Let's see here. Mr. Anderson sent in a $2 super chat. He says, Sanga debuts on Raw before Veer, book it, Vince. Do you guys even think Veer's going to show up, or do you think he's just going to get released on April 15th?
Oh, he showed up on Main Event. So
dude, would that not be something?
That's my feeling. I think Veer's going to get released on April 15th, 2022, and he's not even going to show up on Raw.
Do you remember when they brought Emma back as Emmalina, and they had that all those Emmalina is coming, and she came out and she turned around, walked right backstage? That's what I think we get with Veer.
Yep.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's a joke at this point. But they should put out a T-shirt. They'd probably sell a lot of them.
I'm just surprised they didn't put them in like squash matches all this time and just have them build up that way.
Makes sense. That's kind of what they used to do back.
I think we're officially in After Dark right now, right, Aaron?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson sent in $5 and says, what would happen first, a McMahon bringing back the XFL or going to AEW?
The Rock owns XFL.
Dwayne Johnson.
I would say
neither
both are very unlikely, but I would say a McMahon going to AEW because there's several McMahons, and I think the McMahons are done with the XFL.
Yep.
If the Rock cannot make it work, it's a lost cause. I mean, it probably has been a lost cause, but
I already know
make it work because he's more sports oriented. He's been playing. He has played football, so he knows what he's doing. Unlike Vince, who thought he knew what he was doing with football because he thought, I can if I bring the XFL, I can beat the NFL. Yeah, no.
I was going to say, if McMahon goes to AEW, the first, like if Stephanie and Triple H went, the first feud is going to be Brandy versus Stephanie McMahon. They're going to book that.
Speaking of Brandy and Paige Van Zant with Dan Lambert, Virtue, your boy Dan Lambert, is that like the worst segment in the history of AEW last night?
Brandy's involved. Not even like Dan Lambert can save those segments for me.
It's been a long time since I've seen a segment die on live television, but boy, did that one do it.
Yeah.
That segment might have died if CM Punk even came out there.
Dude, awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a questionable decision. I mean, Brandy is married to Cody, so it is what it is, but I mean, you got so many people that are struggling to get TV time on AEW, and why is Brandy out there?
Yeah, she doesn't need to be out there. I was with the Chicago crowd. I wanted her to shut the F up and just go.
Brandy might be the only person that could actually get Dan Lambert cheered.
Right? I was like, I'm digging Dan Lambert.
Yeah, I don't think
I was digging him before.
He was out there with Jake Roberts and Lance Archer later, so he's still a heel. So what are they doing? I don't even know. But anyways,
I don't know. I think he's trying to get Cody to turn heel.
Whatever. Anyways, Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat. So yes, Virtue, we're officially After Dark now. He says they should use Veer like Eva Marie. Veer is stuck in traffic. Veer had a flat tire, etc. Play his music, but he never comes out. Yeah, they should just completely copy Eva Marie. Make him a complete carbon copy. He can even dye his hair red and come out there and act just like her and do all of her mannerisms. Why not? All right. Let's see. We got Psycho Jet Black says, imagine if Veer debuts with Brodus Clay's old music.
Funk is on a roll.
We could have him come out to Brodus Clay's music. He can dress like Eva Marie. He could come out with the Honky Tonk Man's guitar. What else do you guys think he could do? He could just rip off every single gimmick in the history of wrestling, maybe.
That never came to be, or well, that was
every failed
short-lived.
Like every week, that could be a gimmick. We've never seen that kind of gimmick before, where somebody comes out and tries to use a failed gimmick, but that fails.
Dude, they need to start Hey, remember GTV? They need to do VTV.
VTV, I like it.
VTV.
Veered off the road, as Curtis Butler said.
Oh my gosh.
That'll be the new talk show segment. Veer off road.
We're giving WWE some good ideas here. Maybe they can give us a little cut of their $1 billion in revenue. All right, so we're caught up.
I mean, if they gave Sam Roberts his own show on the freaking network, there's no reason that we can't be on there, right?
Oh, that's true. Anyway, gentlemen, we'll see if we can get through this. We're going to go around and do our plugs. Shoot, we're almost at an hour and a half. So, Big G, go ahead and do your own little closing.
Don't veer off too much.
Yes, you can follow me at nodq.com/BigBallerG. That'll take you to my Twitter page. And if you happen to have TikTok, you can follow me there at BigBallerG1988. That is it for the Big Baller G.
All right. Over to you, Jargo.
Social media at NotJargo, MichaelJargo.com. Yeah, I got too much other crap going on to plug. Just go to the website. It's all there.
It's all there.
All right, over to Son, the man of many voices.
All right, so as you can see right there, that's the screenshot of my thumbnail for my upcoming short film that I've been working on for 9 years now, Battle of Deception. So if you're an anime fan, go ahead and check that out. But yeah, if you like to follow my filmmaking, acting journey, voice acting journey, go ahead and check out my YouTube. Basically, as it's spelled right there, SONGOSHUAKU. YouTube is where all my content is, but I'm also on other social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. That's where I usually post all the behind-the-scenes footage, and then you see the big videos on my main platform, YouTube. So I will comment below and just click on my name, and you can check out my content. Gentlemen, it is fun to be back. I had a long grind with the voice acting contest, so it's finally been great to come back here and enjoy wrestling. I've been watching the shows, though, throughout my time of editing, and you guys always bringing great discussions and everything. So it was fun to be back, and always a pleasure to talk wrestling with all you gentlemen.
And you'll be back next week, correct? You'll be back next week, right?
Yes, I will.
Got a couple birthdays coming up next week.
Yes, fellow birthday twin Noah. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Sounds good.
Colin made sure we have to plug NoDQ.com/merch, and also check out Colin over on Twitter, and he's got his own YouTube channel. Aaron Rift.
All right, so we are in fact in After Dark. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. I guess we'll get everybody's pick here. Everybody can pick. Veer versus Bart Gunn versus EC3 versus Ricochet in a rap battle. I think Veer would win that one. I think Veer, just on his presence, he would come so hard those guys would not have a shot against him. What do you guys think?
Veer.
Yeah.
All right, it's unanimous. Veer would be the winner of that rap battle. And Mr. Anderson with a $2 super chat says, Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville at WrestleMania. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I see that happening. I honestly, I see that happening. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Sami Zayn went to the Jackass Forever red carpet and got kicked out.
Go do it in Saudi Arabia. I don't want.
They probably have Bad Bunny too, so we're gonna have like two celebrity things.
Bad Bunny's got concerts during WrestleMania.
Oh, okay. So then that's why he was at the Rumble.
Sami Zayn going to Saudi Arabia.
I thought Michael Cole did one of his most funniest lines I've heard in years when he did the Lesnar did the F5 to ban Bunny, and he yelled, "Bunnies can fly!" I'm like, I was cracking up. I'm like, that was a pretty funny one.
Yeah, he was probably waiting his whole life to say that line.
Interesting. That's it, Aaron. We're caught up.
Michael Wayne is saying Goldberg versus Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia. Would not shock me if that was the case.
Well, Roman's got to do something there. That's before WrestleMania.
Apparently, Sean Ross Sapp reported that Goldberg's coming back. So yeah, sounds like that's going to be.
And that's the member Vince promised it. So there you go, Aaron.
Yeah, Goldberg retirement match in Saudi Arabia. There you go. Roman Reigns.
The Shogi Classic.
I mean, I'd like to see Goldberg versus Veer at this point. Why not? Just to change things up. Have Veer end Goldberg's career.
There you go.
Follow me on Twitter if you dare. At NoDQ_virtue. Go to NoDQ.com/merch. Get the I Am Sorry shirt. Of course, on the back, it does say NoDQ.com and has the Virtue logo. And you can wear it proudly, and that's how you can get an apology from me. But another great edition of the NoDQ review, number 173. Yeah, Aaron has it right there. So, I mean, we're going to close the show finally after an hour and a half. So for Big G, for Jargo, for Son, and for Aaron Rift, I am Virtue, and we will be here again next Thursday, and we'll do this all again. Good evening, everybody.